All right, welcome to this PD for Father Vincent Capitanano High School. We're getting back into the year, and one of the things that I think we should be thinking about this year in particular is how we can better partner with our stakeholders and our community, and especially our parents. So we're going to take a look at that today. I want to ask this question to begin, and that's how can Father Capodanno High School better engage parents to partner with teachers? And I think what we can control on that is how we as teachers are engaging that. Oftentimes, these partnerships are run through an ATP, an action or an action team for partnerships. We don't have one of those here. So what that is going to have to mean for us is that we as teachers, and myself included in that, are thinking about active ways that we can engage our parents and our stakeholders, our community at large. But today, mostly I want us to focus on how we can engage our parents. But if other things come up, that is great and perfectly fine. But I also want to situate this within the broader mission of our school, which it's always a good reminder at the beginning of the year to go back through. Our mission is to develop resilient students to become resilient leaders armed with the clarity and courage to pursue God's purpose for their lives. My claim for this year is that that can only happen if we are engaging our parents well. If we fail to engage them and bring them into partnership in educating their students, then we will not be able to achieve that mission. So I want to think about how we can do that most effectively this year. So the community partnership, my claim, is going to be the key to this mission, that we partner with our community. Our mission is bold. In order to accomplish that mission, we must fully engage our parents and community to take hold of that vision. So, where do we want our students to become resilient leaders in the future? In their communities and in their families. So if we don't engage students on that level now, how can we expect that to happen in their future careers? We'll take a look at this Venn diagram here. We see strong families, excellent schools, and healthy communities. Where is a successful student going to be raised? Well, at the intersection of all three of those. So we think we have an excellent school. We think we provide an excellent education. Okay, well, are we doing that in communion with the families? And are we helping to build those strong families? Are we giving families the resources to fully engage with their students' education? And are we fully engaging our community at large to play a role in the education of their children? And if we're not, then we won't have all three of those circles concentric and they won't be working together. So let's talk about 6 strategies. And this is something developed from Epstein's book, that these 6 strategies for engaging our parents and our community. And we'll run through each of these in particular. And what I want you to do as we're describing each one, my goal for the end of this is for each one of us to have identified at least one of these strategies that we can implement in at least one way. Hopefully you think of more, but at the end of this, if we can make each of our classes as teachers just that one step better, each year we do that, we're going to create more and more effective partnerships with our families and communities so that we can most engage our students. So those 6 strategies are parenting, communicating, volunteering, learning at home, decision making, and collaborating with the community. And like I said, that these strategies are often first sought out from an action team for partnerships. But like I said, we don't have that. We're a small school. We're not well developed. So if we're going to develop those things, we've got to do it organically on our own. So let's talk about this first strategy, parenting. This means assisting parents in understanding adolescent development and creating home environments that support their child's learning. And it also means helping our teachers, or us as teachers, trying to understand our families more. So if this might seem like something that's entirely out of our control, right? We are not their parents. We are not with them. It's when they leave the school. So how can we actually implement this strategy? So I have some questions. I'll ask some of these questions with each strategy I bring up. Things to ask ourselves as teachers so that we can see if we're implementing these well. So the first question I want to ask you, how are we informing our parents of what students are learning in class? Are we actually like bringing this parents into what's happening in our classes? I know for myself, sometimes I get frustrated at parents, like, why are they so oblivious to the things that I'm doing? Like, why aren't they being supportive of this? But then I ask myself, have I done anything proactive to partner with them to make them not oblivious? And most of the time the answer is no. Like, I've just uploaded our assignments onto Jupiter Ed, but not even like descriptions or like expectations, just like the name of the assignment. So parents are totally in the dark as to what their child is doing for 8 hours of their day, and then we expect them to behave when they have questions for us like they're not oblivious. No, if we want them to partner with us, we have to inform them. We have to do a good job of bringing the stuff that we are going over in the classroom to them. What are different strategies we can execute to do that? I know I'll be working on some of those things. Like, for instance, this is one of the things that I really want to engage in this year. In my theology class, every week I want to send home an overview. It doesn't have to be crazy detailed, but an overview of what we're going on in class and some of the resources that they can use if they want to educate themselves further or they want to engage their kids on the same level. So, are we informing parents of what we're doing in class? How well are we empowering that parents who support their children in our class? So again, oh yeah, the parents aren't on board with what I'm doing. Well, one, maybe they don't know what you're doing, but two, maybe they don't know how to help. Like in our theology class, we use highly technical language often. We are using resources that are erudite and difficult, and we're challenging our students with them, but our parents might not know how to engage their kids on the doctrine of the Trinity. Is there anything that we can do to help them do that? Is there any dinner table questions that we can offer them? Or is there any resources or reading or a podcast episode or YouTube video that we can say, hey, watch this at home? Doesn't have to be with your kids, but just that way your kid asks you a question or you're studying with them or whatever it is, right? They are able to engage with their kids. How well are we inputting Catholic social teaching into the execution of our classes? In other words, does the structure of our classes allow parents to be the primary educators of their children? If the answer to that is no, if we are not saying, well, everything that I'm doing in class, I can support and empower parents to take hold of their responsibility and their right as the first educator of their children. If we aren't doing that, then we aren't properly partnering with our parents. So that's the first strategy. The second strategy, communicating. This means communicating with families about school events and student progress. So some questions to ask ourselves. How often are we engaging parents about student progress? When I look at my last year, how often am I telling parents how their kids are doing? I can really only think of two concrete times. It's when report cards get sent out and when students are failing. That's it. There's no other like systematic way I'm engaging parents about if their child's doing well, if they're doing poorly, if they've done something exceptional. I've only just communicated those times. And one of those times is not even me, it's just the school sending out a report card. I don't think that's enough. That's something I want to change in this coming year. Are we only communicating with parents about negative behavior? This is something like parents, as I talk to parents, if they see the caller ID of Father Capodanno High School on their phone, they immediately get nervous. If they see an email coming from an at capodannohigh.org email address, they immediately get nervous. Why? Because the only times that they're actually engaged is when there are problems. And most of the time, those are like serious problems. So they're only interacting with us in negative ways. And that also means that students that are doing well or don't have like behavioral issues, their parents might never get interacted with. I think that's something we want to change if we want to partner with our parents. Do we provide parents with actionable feedback to support their child? Is it just, hey, this happened. Hey, your kid's doing poorly. I think of a student I had a couple of years ago whose parents weren't really Catholic, or I don't even think they were religious at all. but they were doing poorly in my theology class, which makes sense. There was no like reinforcement of it at home. But when I reach out to like, again, those like rare times we reach out, hey, they're doing poorly. Well, the parents have absolutely no religious education. What can they do to actually help their kid? And I wasn't giving that to them. Okay, well, if I'm not going to be the one giving them actionable ways to support their kids, especially in like the theology classroom, um, where are they going to get it? I think that's a responsibility that we as teachers need to take on to partnership or to partner with our families. And then what systems can we build into our classes to more healthfully communicate with parents? Maybe it's a weekly email. Maybe it's a whole slew of things. Maybe it's an email and a Facebook post and a Jupiter Ed post and a hard copy that they take home, kids take home. I don't know. It doesn't have to be those things. Obviously, that's a way we can get creative, but it's something we should be asking. Our third strategy, volunteering. This means including parents and community members as volunteers in our classrooms and school events. So what can we do as teachers? Here are some questions. Who are the community members or parents who have expertise in the subjects we teach? Are there parents that are uniquely interested in these things? Have we even engaged our parents to see who is willing and able to be a part of our classrooms? How can we involve them in our classrooms? So like for my classroom in particular as a theology teacher, I know we have access to priests. I know we have access to deacons. I mean, even one of our students' parents is a priest, right? Because he's an Anglican in the Anglican ordinariate. Is there a way we can get Father Joe into the theology classroom once or twice this year? Is there a subject that he is particularly passionate about that he could come in and be a part of? Those are questions that I haven't gone through and have not answered well. And I think that's a way we can partner with our parents. How well do we communicate classroom needs with our communities? Do we allow our community to assist in the needs of our classroom? I mean, I think about things like just the basic needs of a classroom in terms of like tissues and expo markers, all sorts of things like that. If like those are things that we as teachers sometimes complain about not having. What if there was a thing come July or not July, January, we said, hey, like everybody's got a cold, please we'd love you to partner with us by making sure we're supplied with tissues and hand sanitizer. I don't know. Those are the kind of things that if we allow parents to be a part of our classrooms more in those ways, I think we'll see fruit in terms of them uh, collaborating with us to create excellent families and strong schools and thriving communities. Strategy 4, learning at home. This means involving parents with the learning process at home. I think some of the differences between the strategies are gray. They're just kind of emphasizing a different piece of it. So this strikes me to be like one in it goes hand in hand with communicating and parenting. But what this means is involving parents with the learning process at home. So the questions we can ask ourselves: can parents understand what the expectations for the students are? Do our parents understand exactly what their students are required to do and how they're required to execute it? Are we making those expectations known so that when their kids are at home and saying, "Oh, I don't know what to do here," their parents say, "Well, I have resources that Mr. Hartley gave me to do this and this and this that I know exactly what you should be doing and I can help you." Can parents, or do we provide resources for parents to educate themselves so that they can academically support their child? I mentioned this earlier, but like I'll use a different example than in theology class. But I know if a teacher came to me and said your child's struggling in pre-calculus, I, I would immediately go, well, what am I supposed to do? I can sign them up for tutoring if I can afford it, but that's it. Is there anything that a teacher can provide me so that I can help my student so that they can learn at home effectively? And finally, do we help parents develop strategies for improving their child's study skills? We run into a lot of problems with skills, understandably. Students don't know how to study. They don't know how to take notes. They don't know how to study their flashcards. Are we giving the parents the ability to understand their children? Sometimes, especially like parents with teenagers for the first time, they might not understand exactly how to help their child grow in their skill set and their study skills. Are there things that we can provide for them so that we're partnering with them? And then our final strategy, collaborating with the community. This means coordinating community resources and services for students and families. So questions to ask ourselves as teachers. What are the individual needs of my students and their families? Do we actually know, like, what are their homes like? Do we know their socioeconomic status? Do we know the things they need? Oh, this kid isn't getting lunch at school, right? He's not bringing his lunch, or he doesn't have the materials that he needs. Are we working really hard to help each student have those needs met? Do I know ways to activate known resources to assist those students and families? And are there community programs or organizations that assist in those needs? And this is where I think this sixth strategy, while it definitely can be executed by individual teachers in classrooms in their own way, does show the need for this to be a partnership team here at our school, and to be something that happens at the administrative level as well. That we are activating as many resources as we can to zero in on uh, uh, focusing on the student's needs. So there is a macro need here. So we can do these things as teachers. This will be most effectively executed at the administrative level with a team. And that's something we can work towards in the future. So how can we accomplish each of these strategies now? Like I said at the beginning, start by focusing on one or two strategies, not all six. There's probably something that stood out to you that you're like, I could do that. This could be really great. Think about how you can do that. For instance, and this is the example that I gave, I've touched on it a couple of times. I want parents to be more involved in my theology classroom, so I'm going to focus on strategy one, parenting. I'm going to be sending home weekly newsletter in hard copy and digital copies, and I'll include discussion questions for parents to be empowered to engage their children about the theology curriculum. Another example, and I mentioned this one too, I don't have priests in my classroom enough. Why is their insight not brought to our students? So I knew to engage the community and tap into those resources more. This final slide, and it's not just a slide to hand this out, this is an activity for us to go through. I want you to think about these things, choosing one goal for student learning or the behavior of a student that's important in your classroom. This is a school, but we're doing this on the individual teacher basis. So in your classroom, what's one learning goal or behavior goal that you can have? And how can you measure that goal? And then we're thinking of these strategies and how they play into that goal and how they can reach that. So we can go through that and discuss it. What I hope from this is that we as teachers, as a community, can together be working on these strategies. My guess is that if each of us chooses one, by the end of today, we will have like 10 different strategies that we can all input, because we'll be able to use other teachers' insights and creative suggestions that we can implement in our classrooms too. So that's our PD today. Thanks for listening, and looking forward to see how these things are executed to make Father Capodanno the best high school in the state. Thanks so much. And I realized as I was going through this that I forgot one slide, our fifth strategy. I went right from four to six. But I would be remiss if I did not discuss the fifth strategy, which is decision making. This means involving parents in the overall decisions of the school. Now, again, this is more macro stuff, less individual classroom, but I still want to challenge us to think about how we can do this well. And maybe more difficult for us as teachers to apply, but I think there's something here. So let me ask you these questions, or we'll ask ourselves these questions. Do we allow parents the opportunity to influence our classrooms? I think that's something we as teachers are often defensive about. We don't want parents influencing our curriculum. Why not? Is there anything fruitful that can come of that? I think possibly. Do we allow parents to inform us about their child's unique challenges or struggles? They know their kids. Are we listening to what they say? I know sometimes my attitude toward parents can sometimes be a little jaded, like they only get in the way. I don't think that's the healthy way to engage our parents. And do we respond to parent concerns defensively or attentively? Do we realize that we're both on the same team? That we're both seeking the education of their child? Or are we acting like they are an impediment to that? That adversarial role, in many ways, can be unhelpful for excellent education. That's something I can change. Okay, sorry about not adding that last slide. It was in there, but I just skipped right over it. So, uh, if you have any questions about this afterwards, we'll keep collabing. Thanks. And I realized as I was going through this that I forgot one slide, our fifth strategy. I went right from 4 to 6. But